On Monday morning, I found myself here in this chamber, being the dutiful backbencher that I am, and I happened to be in here when the Leader of the Opposition launched into his ugly attack of the voice. But thankfully, since then, I've also heard from many others who gave this matter the respect and dignity it deserves, just like the extraordinary contribution we've just witnessed here from the member for Berowra, and I thank him for his considered position and dignity that he's giving to this debate. Yet since Monday, Deputy Speaker, those mean and nasty words of the Leader of the Opposition have stayed with me since I've heard them. And I guess what has kept them with me is that at this point of time, right now, he has seized this once-in-a-generation opportunity to bring our country together, our once-in-a-generation opportunity to listen to communities across the nation, to continue on a path to reconciliation. And instead of seizing that opportunity, he's used his 15 minutes here to engage in fear-mongering and the politics of division. He's relied on talking points of shock jocks and conspiracy theorists while perpetuating misinformation regarding the proposed constitutional alteration. And as I sat there on Monday, unwillingly absorbing that disinformation, someone messaged me and challenged me to use my speech and my time in this place to call him out. And so I will. The Leader of the Opposition claims that, quote, "If Australians vote for change, our nation, our democracy and their lives will be fundamentally altered." This is false. In response, I'll draw the Liberal Party's attentions to the words of the Second Law Officer of the Commonwealth, Solicitor General Stephen Donohue. He said that the voice will not impede or restrict the exercise of existing parliamentary powers. He further emphasised that the voice is not only compatible with our system of representative and responsible government prescribed by the Constitution, but that it enhances that very system. The next piece of misinformation from the Leader of the Opposition is the shameful implication that this process has been rushed. He says, again, I quote, "Our Constitution is not something to be toyed with lightly, yet that's exactly what this Prime Minister is doing. Whenever we've made a change to the Constitution in the past, there's been a convention. Instead, we've had a 4.5-day committee, a kangaroo court." Again, this is false. The falsehood, of course, is the dastardly implication that this referendum has been rushed, ill thought out, and is being rammed through this parliament. Firstly, there have been 4 referendums that have been put to the Australian people that were not based on any convention recommendations. 3 of those 4 referendums were carried. Secondly, there actually was a constitutional convention for this one. He said there wasn't one, and I mean it wasn't that hard to find out. There's a quote on the Parliament's website. It wasn't that hard to find. It says, "A constitutional convention bringing together over 250 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders met at the foot of Uluru in Central Australia on the lands of the Angangnu people. The convention met over 4 days, from 23rd to 26th of May 2017, to discuss and agree on an approach for constitutional reform to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples." So that misinformation, again, quite easily disproven. Then now let's talk about this implication that the process has been rushed. In 2018, a bipartisan Joint Select Committee led by the member for Berowra and the Honourable Senator for the Northern Territory Patrick Dodson examined the proposal made public in 2017. The recommendations of the committee's report were accepted by the Morrison government when the Leader of the Opposition was a senior cabinet minister. Then a senior advisory group established by former Minister for Indigenous Australians Ken Wyatt brought together Indigenous representatives and the government for a co-design process. They delivered their final report in 2021, Deputy Speaker. And then, of course, we had a commitment to hold this referendum as a key plank of an election platform for the Albanese government. To imply that this process has been rushed or is undercooked is not only just patently false, it is farcical. The Leader of the Opposition and the Liberal Party are deliberately sweeping away years and years of consultation and work carried out by Indigenous elders, representatives and members of their own caucus to cast doubt over this generous offer made by Indigenous Australians. Then the member for Dixon expresses concern about the lack of detail regarding the voice. Now, we know that this line comes straight from the Cooker's Handbook, Deputy Speaker, The conspiracy theorists and those who oppose the voice continue to parrot this line out each and every day. In his speech, the Leader of the Opposition said, "The government wants you to vote for a voice on a vibe." This is false. I'll tell you what's not a vibe. 280 pages of detail in a report to the Cabinet is not a vibe. This was the report that was delivered to the former government and presented to Cabinet that the Leader of the Opposition was a member of. This report resulted from an 18-month collaborative process, providing a comprehensive plan and implementable recommendations to incorporate the voices of First Nations people in the Australian Government and Parliament. Not only is there a 288-page report, the Leader of the Opposition seems to have ignored, but there has also been substantial information released by reputable third parties. The Indigenous Law Centre has published 3 issues papers addressing critical matters related to constitutional amendments, the referendum question and the finalisation of the voice design. And of course, the draft amendment to the Constitution has been made public. And after all this detail, to claim that there is no detail on how the voice will work is abhorrent and absurd. But mark my words, Deputy Speaker, it is also deliberate, it is divisive and it is disingenuous. And finally, and probably most offensively, the Leader of the Opposition consistently refers to the voice as the Canberra voice. He shouts that he and the Liberals do not support enshrining in our Constitution a divisive, disrupting and democracy-altering Canberra-based voice. This, again, is false. The voice is a generous offer by Indigenous Australians. The voice will be representative of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. It will be empowering, community-led, inclusive, respectful, culturally informed and gender-balanced. The voice will enhance our democracy and will bring our country together. It will bring us closer to treaty and truth and will enhance our country on our journey towards reconciliation. And I hope in my minutes here today, Deputy Speaker, that those opposite truly understand what the Leader of the Opposition is trying to do when he chooses to deliberately spread misinformation in his opposition to the voice. He aims to instill fear, he aims to cast doubt, and he aims to bring down this referendum, one that his party and his former government were committed to not so long ago. In his closing statements, the Leader of the Opposition encourages all Australians to be guided by their heads. And on this point, I concur with him. Australians should not vote on party lines on this matter, because if they do, then this referendum will fail. I'd encourage everyone to be guided by their heads, by their intellect and by their compassion. The Australia that I know and the Bennelong that I represent will make decisions based on reason and empathy, and I'm hopeful that they will vote in favour of this critical referendum. The referendum is a simple matter encompassing 2 crucial aspects: recognition and consultations. And if Australians consider those 2 matters, Deputy Speaker, then they too will vote yes in this 45th referendum, making it the 9th successful referendum in Australian history. And as they did at the last federal election, I have faith in Bennelong and the nation to reject the politics of fear, to reject the politics of division and misinformation. I have faith in Australia to unite in support of this referendum and vote yes.
Authorised by Jerome Laxale, ALP 32 Beecroft Road, Epping, New South Wales 2121.